Welcome to the FilmGamer Podcast, Season 5, Episode 9, number 59 overall. This is a special episode for sure, because I have a guest, Kyle Weingart, who I will be interviewing later on in the episode, and we talk about what Hollywood gets right and wrong, and he's an independent filmmaker who made a sci-fi comedy, post-apocalyptic, set in Montana, about a world in which a man wants to upload his cooking show to the internet. So even in the apocalypse, people must keep the content flow going. And I'll talk a bit about that. But first, I want to talk about something that caught me last night before I started recording this. About what Hollywood gets right and wrong, because it's about what the internet and film Twitter get right and wrong. And I wanted to get on top of that kind of first, because it kind of went with me. It caught me, and it's kind of a key to my personality, which is why I don't necessarily get along with other groups on the internet when it comes to film talks and stuff. Like, I'm not enemies with anybody really, but I'm very authoritative when it comes to film. And so when somebody, outside of a situation, like in terms of the criticism, everybody wants to be right on the internet, and the only way, to get something done is to do it incorrectly and whatnot. But I get annoyed when somebody presents themselves as an authority on film and then gets stuff wrong. I think that entitles you to a certain amount of criticism. So I'm not a follower of Reddit box office, for example, because that just, drives me crazy. That sort of started when the Batman came out, and later on Spider-Man No Way Home, and everybody kind of watched those climb to the heights they did, successful heights, particularly with Spider-Man No Way Home. And everybody kind of overnight became a box office analyst, like a backyard box office analyst. And what irritates me about it is just that post-pandemic, Hollywood still has not recovered from how to make movies getting back into a healthy marketplace. They just haven't. So these people who are overnight box office analysts don't really know what a healthy marketplace looks like. So it's odd when you see or hear people talking about, this movie doing well, or the box office of One Battle After Another, or Tron, or something like that, without really having context for its external factors, internal factors, and whatnot. So I just kind of wanted to update on that. And the one thing in particular that set it off was that Film Updates, which is a Twitter page with more than 1 million followers, pointed out that Mason Thames, he's been having a big year. He was the lead in How to Train Your Dragon, the live action remake. He was in Black Phone 2, of course. He was in the first one. And he's the main character, although not top billed. And he's in Regretting You, as well as the main sort of love interest. That's kind of like a four-hander or whatever. And over the weekend, that was a box office estimate for the top two. The other one being his other movie, Black Phone 2. And the actuals hadn't come out yet. And Film Updates was quick to point out, and of course other blogging and gossip sites took it up, said Mason Thames is the first actor since Jim Carrey in the mid-90s to headline 3 number one movies, different number one movies at the box office in 1 year. And I'm like, well, that's not true. Other actors have done it, and I've looked it up, and you very obviously find out that it's not true. Like, you get to the first one that I found was Samuel Jackson, who in 2019 was, of course, Nick Fury in 3 different movies, all with his own character poster. And then he was in Glass, and all of those movies were number one. So you had Glass in January, you had Captain Marvel in March, you had Avengers Endgame in April, and then you had Spider-Man Far From Home in July. So that was, bothersome, because that's something very easy to check. And then you go back and you're like, well, 2008, he was in Jumper, he was in Iron Man, he was in Lakeview Terrace. And then in 2002, he was in Changing Lanes, Star Wars Attack of the Clones. Um, it's and a third movie which I can't get to from here. Um, yeah, if I can do because it sparked a whole thing I can show you here of just like this is from Buzzing Pop, not film updates, but it's just boggles my mind that like somebody would not be more careful running that account when you have like over 1 million followers and you just tweet something that is very obviously not true. And this isn't a political post or anything. It's just kind of like rage engagement. Um, and yeah, uh, it's so I wrote a joke of just like you know black actors excluded or something like that with the 4 Samuel Jackson posters, and of course people like just misunderstand it left and right. It's like, oh, I didn't know Samuel Jackson was 18. It's like, well, Jim Carrey wasn't 18. And then people go, oh well, Mason Thames wasn't, or Samuel Jackson wasn't top billing in those movies. I'm like, Mason Thames isn't top billing in these movies. You have How to Train Your Dragon, arguably, sure. You have Black Phone 2, which is Ethan Hawke, and Regretting You, which is McKenna Grace. So it's like just a small thing that's like wrong, kind of any way you slice it. And, that part bothers me. So yeah, I called it out. And I found a Reddit thread un- untied to that. That I brought up, and that I had to submit it as a community note, annoyingly. Um, and the main community note is just like that the actuals came in and it's not number one for the weekend, which Deadline was already reporting on that. Like when actuals came in, it would likely be Black Phone 2. But yeah, it's just a very small thing that I was bothered about. And just because it's boggling my mind here, um, I wanted to find the post that I did to the Reddit thread, um, where they mentioned the other actors. And yeah, it was beyond Samuel Jackson. Keanu Reeves in 2002 with the Matrix sequels and Something's Got to Give. You got Zendaya in 2021 with No Way Home, Dune, and Spider Man No Way Home. Yeah, No Way Home, Dune, No Way Home, 2021 Zendaya. What was her third movie? It's driving me nuts. She was in Spider Man. She was in. Well, let me just look it up. Yeah, Space Jam: A New Legacy, because she was Lola Bunny. Um, yeah, and it's somewhat common. Yeah. Somebody pointed out that Rock did this. Yeah, with GI Joe Retaliation, where he's a top star. Pain and Gain, top star. In Fast Six, where he's one of the top stars. So again, just annoying semantics that bothered me. Okay, moving on. I might as well roll into the box office, just because I have it in front of me and already broached the subject. Movies for the weekend, you have Black Phone 2 doing well. That was always expected to do well, anyways. 61 million worldwide. I don't know. Let me see here. It's probably in the 80s, or it was in the 80s last weekend. It's updated, so I'll just get into that here. You have 105 million worldwide. Um, I'm on my PlayStation just because it's in front of me, and that browser works. So I'll take whatever browser works. But yeah, 105 million. You have Regretting You, which is obviously doing well. It didn't cost a whole lot. I think in the 40s or 25 million. Um, Man, does it make a difference having something that's like fast in order to work fast. Yeah, it cost 30 million and it's made 50 million worldwide estimated now. You have so profit deal for both. You have Chainsaw Man, of course, that's going to do well. Anime is pretty cheap, 30 million, and it opened to number one at the box office 2 weeks ago. You got K-pop Demon Hunters, which was re-released again. That's going off estimates. Um, you have what have you done? Yes, I know. You have Begonia in its wide release, 5 million, 6 million total. This is the highest that Yorgos Lanthimos, the director of The Favorite and Poor Things, has done in wide release. So good for him. Focus Virtual Features Universal. It's kind of weirdly the was like the main Halloween weekend release actually, expanding from a small amount of theaters. Um, I saw Jesse Plemons on Late Night with Seth Meyers, and uh, funny enough, Kirsten Dunst was on there a few weeks ago, and she mentioned that, as actors, she hasn't seen them in like a month, but they're married and they have kids. And it was funny because Jesse Plemons talked about, or it was brought up to him, that he was in Like Mike, and yet they don't do a whole lot of kids' movies. And he's like, well, my wife's kids' movies are way better. They watched Small Soldiers and liked it. They liked uh, um, Jumanji, of course. And so, you can't compete with that, I guess, even if you're, a celebrated actor. Those are two that you're really rooting for because they met on Fargo, and then, they're in The Power of the Dog. They each get Academy Award nomination and stuff. I hope they make it. Then you have Back to the Future re-released again, 4 million. That's made over like 220 million. If I try and do this, will it blow up on me? Let me just do it on my phone because I don't want to navigate away from the main page. If I go into all releases, 219 million. Yeah. 170 international, 389 million worldwide. Doesn't seem like a whole lot for Back to the Future, but this is 85 numbers adjusted for inflation. It's huge. I won't do it because I don't like adjusting for inflation. Movies make as much as they do at the time. There are different circumstances. For example, movies back then didn't have to compete with Netflix or, the visual fidelity of modern video games, and other things going on. So every movie is of its time. You have Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, and the biggest indication about this, it dropped about 57%, didn't lose any theaters, but 16 million total. This movie cost about 60-ish million, so it's like kind of officially a bomb. And the reviews were just okay. And so what's being indicated is just that their budget of 55 million, it'll be profitable. After all is said and done, I believe, like, people will see it, it'll do well on Disney Plus, it'll release on DVD and that kind of thing, and eventually be profitable. Like any movie that's has a decent distributor behind it. Like even Gods of Egypt, famously, that cost like $100 million. 8 years later, made a profit. Not exactly the return on investment you want, or like a poorly reviewed movie. However, you know, people tend to online say, "Oh, this movie, like this guy." I won't call him out by name, but but he does use AI in his name, so he might not be a real dude. But he said something, and he was talking about a movie not making money, and I said something along the lines of, here, if I can get to it. Yeah, according to AI box office math, a theatrical feature needs 2.5 times box office growth to recoup. Blah 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 blah, and he just goes through all the movies that lost money, and uh, somebody on Black Bear, which is a distributor for the new Sydney Sweeney movie called Christie. Uh, they mentioned, okay, if you make a movie and you're expecting purely to get in the black based off of um, what is just the theatrical release and like no future releases, that is a terrible business model. Nobody does that. So the fact is that, like, everybody calculating, oh, it needs 2.5 million, and then this is the budget in that, um, is wrong, because as I joked to this guy, I'm like, and these movies will never release anywhere else ever again, as we know. Um, Good example is Madam Web. It made 100 million worldwide on like a 80 million ish budget, and it was a big hit though on streaming. and people watched it because it's a ridiculous movie. Um, Another movie that was like a success on video but not in the theater was The Northman. So that movie did really big numbers on VOD and kept Universal in touch with the director Robert Eggers, and they gave him Nosferatu, and that was a huge hit. Um, I saw it in theaters even on Christmas Day because there was no adult counter programming to the kids' movies at the time, and it ended up making like 180 million worldwide on a $50 million budget. Now they have him making Werewolf, um, which is his next movie. Um, and it's so annoying because all these annoying people. Oh, I am gonna name drop them just because I need the clout. But the guy's name's Stephen Gados, and the girl who's like, "Oh, can I post this on my website, Sasha Stone?" And it's just so annoying because it's like with one battle after another. Let's say it costs 140 million. You do the 2.5 whatever rule, and then plus marketing or whatever, and people are like, "Oh, it needs over 300 million." Well, I guess the Leo movie completely flopped and is never going to make any money again, and nobody's ever going to see it. That is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous assertion. The movie is going to come out. It was announced just recently in January of 2026, and that's when it's going to come out on video, and people are going to watch it, and it'll do an Oscar run. And yeah, if these movies, to the amount that people say weren't profitable, Hollywood would be shut down. So just don't pay attention to the noise. Is all I'll say. Tron Ares is a flop. Disney will absorb it. Is there anything else really worth mentioning? Not really. People have been beaten up on Shelby Oaks, which is a neon movie directed by a guy, Chris Stuckman, who I guess he grew up in a cult, but he became a really popular YouTube reviewer. And to me, he's kind of that YouTube era, early era of junket film reviews where they're kind of broad. But he wanted to move on, good for him, and become a filmmaker. And he refused to review Madam Web because he thought making a film was really hard, and he got fortunate enough to get distributed by major indie label Neon, and he made this movie Shelby Oaks. It doesn't open super well. Um, it opens wide in just over 1,008 theaters, 1,200 theater average, makes 2.3 million. Hey, 2.3 million if you're making your first movie is like nothing to sneeze at. Do you know how many people get their first movie in theaters? Not that many. So props to him for getting it made. And a lot of people have been discussing it, so that's like a win. I find it kind of weird how people are like extra beating up on it, and it's like they must have hate watched him back in the day because I didn't watch him at all. So I didn't feel the need to take him seriously or anything. And it's like, hey, his movie did well, and people say he's a good director, bad writer. There are plenty of those. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, 4 million worldwide. I'm sure the movie costs like 5 million or something like that, and it'll eventually make its money back. So if I don't like the title, but if I just look here, I'd love to see some junket interviews for that, by the way. But yeah, the movie costs 2.8 million. It's made for. It's already profitable. Like horror, and the 2.5 rule is like a rule of thumb. Like there are movies that like have really gigantic overhead, and there are movies that have like no overhead or executives to pay. This is probably one of them. So the movie's like profitable, and people are talking about it, and he got to seemingly make the movie he wanted. So it's a win for Chris Stuckman. So moving on, do we have much in the way of reviews or new reviews to be revealed before I get onto my letterboxed top numbers? It's gonna make me hit these stupid cookies again. Let me just bring it up on my phone because it's faster. Oh, also, you know what I'll show you? This flew into my backyard, and I got my film camera, my Panasonic Lumix GH5 Mark II. Take a photo of it. Look at this. that slow, that slow. That's hard. Anyway, nice little Blue Jay flew in. By the way, heartbreaking loss for fans of the Blue Jays. I wouldn't consider myself a fan of any professional sports, although I default to Boston Bruins, I guess, but feel good because I saw them win in 2011, and that felt good. My brother was the big fan watching that one. So I enjoyed watching sports in the playoffs, and what a game. I would have felt bad for, the Blue Jays if it came down to like a bad call that didn't go their way, or there was a dirty play or something like that. I didn't see that. It was really good game of baseball to watch. Just as a neutral fan, obviously I switch more toward the Blue Jays. I was rooting for them because they represent Canada, even though they have one Canadian player who is Canadian, I believe, because there's one Canadian on each team, and Freddie Freeman is Canadian because both his parents are Canadian, but he's not. It's, you know, citizenship, who knows? But, yeah, the main controversy that came after the game was actually that Toronto is like, yes, we know there's a city game, but we don't have any public transportation ready for you if the game goes along. And that was just kind of sad, and they're getting that looked at. Yeah, is there much in the way of movie reviews? There's a Richard Linklater movie that played at Toronto Film Fest, Nouvelle Vague, which is about the making of Breathless. Stars Zoe Deutsch, who he starred with in Everybody Wants Some. And that's coming out the same day as her co-star Glenn Powell's movie is coming out, The Running Man. No reviews yet for that, but people have seen it. It's at 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's I know people like it. The reason I didn't go see it at the time was there were people who said it wasn't great, and I kind of need across the board, praise of delusional praise about a movie if I'm gonna go see it at a film festival, and that way it lives up to some or is interesting enough for me. The consensus on Nouveau Vague, which is French for new wave, referring to the French new wave of cinema, seamlessly recreating one of cinema's most groundbreaking productions. Nouvelle Vague doesn't reinvent the medium the way its subjects did, but it pays tribute to their accomplishment with infectious admiration. Now, to me, movies about making movies are kind of a hat on a hat. Every movie is, to some degree, they say, about making movies anyways, so you don't really need one about it. The one that I'd always like to see is sort of like a best in show, or they did this sort of with For Your Consideration, the Christopher Guest movie. I'd love to see a mockumentary about making a movie where it all kind of falls apart, comes together, falls apart, and that would be interesting to me. Is there anything else though that pops up? Not really. I will say I have been watching Welcome to Derry, and similar to the It and It Chapter 2 movies, they're long. They seem very long, and to the point where I'm like, oh, whatever. And then there's one kind of cool horror sequence that comes. I'm like, okay, cool. And then after 20 minutes, I get bored again, and then there's another cool sequence. So it's something worth watching, I suppose, but it's just the lore I could not care less about. Yeah. Anything else? Well, they're going to movies and theaters, and I don't care too much for this. On Friday, Frankenstein comes out on IMAX, it's currently in limited release in theaters, as all major Netflix movies do. And you have the Richard Linklater movie that Sony Pictures Classic is releasing, called Blue Moon. People say that one is better than Nouvelle Vague. But yeah, I can't help but feel that if a movie has the choice between theaters and streaming, if it's bad, it'll go to streaming. If it's good, it'll go to theaters most of the time, because somebody has to put the money up there and say, this is it. This is where it's going. While not the flashiest Richard Linklater film, Blue Moon boasts a wonderful performance by Ethan Hawke as he embodies a man hanging on by a thread while the audience hangs on to every word said. that's great. But Ethan Hawke plays a very ugh, kind of guy, um, and uh, looking guy, um, ugly looking guy. So I don't really want to. And it's about him in love with Margaret Qualley, and I just there's a way to do that story, and I find it almost has to be like bitterly cynical or bitterly um, funny. But anyways, moving on with it all. Um, I'll get to the interview in a bit. Um, I did have this back on my. I'll circle back on this a little, but because it will be a good spot for a film clip. But Quentin Tarantino was on Joe Rogan a few months ago to talk about film podcast, and he's an industry insider. Another industry insider on Reddit called out, the box office analyst not really knowing what to do and that kind of thing. But Quentin Tarantino called out. He's like, I was there when these movies came out, and just kind of retroactive appraisals and that kind of thing. He called it all out, and he's like, "That's the thing is that these podcasters don't know what they're talking about." So I try and know what I'm talking about from time to time. Okay, that's what I'll do. Um, uh, so I'll a couple of house cleaning before I get to that, and I'll end with the interview because I don't want to do an interview and then circle back. I saw no and finished Nobody Wants This season 2. Um, I liked it, not as much as season 1, but it was fine. It's the standard, like, slight step down. There isn't the freshness of it. Um, I really like the characters. The one issue that I had is that it kind of wraps up a bit too nicely. As if, the people there, they realize, hey, um, who knows when the next season is going to come around, the way seasons work now. So let's just make sure everything's wrapped up with a neat bow. And it kind of comes a little too easy. I would have liked for the characters to be apart more, almost like an Empire Strikes Back sort of thing, um, on the movie. And, or sorry, on the TV show. And it's for one of the characters coming together is natural, and the other one is just kind of like, I don't care. But it's flirts with a repetition in a way that bothers me, of just kind of like the sitcom trope of like there's an issue, it's briefly taken seriously, and then it's all hugging at the end. I don't mind that when it's done well, but this is sort of half-hearted, sometimes partially drama. I like that it's about a podcaster. um, I like that it doesn't try and hide that it's about mostly privileged characters in Los Angeles. Like, they both have really good families, which is nice to see, actually. That weirdly sets it apart because every family you see in movies or something is broken. Um, yeah. Um, so, I enjoyed it. It was something to watch. And then Tulsa King I've been watching, and it's kind of spinning its wheels a bit. Apparently for the next season 4 started filming. They fired like 26 people, like right before they were about to go into production. And I'm like, ooh, that's a bad sign. But they're bringing back the writer from season 2, so doesn't make me feel great about season 3 because that showrunner wasn't asked to return. And there's not much going on there, but it's entertaining enough. You hang with the characters a bit. Other TV shows that I have been watching, I'm trying to think. Post Task, not a lot going down. Um, yeah, I guess I've been busy. I'm filming a movie scene this week in a short film, a religious short film. It's sort of like a prodigal son returns. I am the son. And I was able to run lines with my co-star, who was a very nice lady. And uh, I look forward to shooting it and maybe telling you more about that. I also perhaps got a job doing airport luggage, which is a nice little cushy union job. If I can get it, I'll have to move to Ottawa to do it, but we'll see how it progresses. I do virtual training starting next week. So going forward, we'll see how it is. My scheduled TikToks that I do with my collaborator are every Tuesday now. So that's something I'm doing tomorrow. And yeah, so I would say that covers the basis. So let me get into the final bit of it, which is my letterbox diary. Now, the last time I left you guys off on episode 58 was um, Tuesday, so it would have been a week ago Tuesday. So if I can do the math, or why don't I just, because it's whatever I watched after Tuesday, I'll just look at my calendar here, which I always try and have be immediate. That's not it. So last Tuesday was the 28th. So I really only watched 3 movies, and that was Hocus Pocus 2, which I forgot, and Universal Language. I think I tapped into Universal Language a bit. I remember talking about Hocus Pocus 2 because that was in the afternoon, and then I would have recorded it after. But Universal Language is just a movie, takes place in Winnipeg, and it is about a world in which most of the Canada at least speaks Farsi and French and stuff like that. And it's the kind of thing made by a guy who really understands filmmaking language, but whose story is really boring. And I gave it 2.5 stars because it's brilliant, but didn't really need or care to see it. It was a struggle. It felt it's one of those movies where watching it feels like homework. Um, Similarly, Ballad of a Small Player, which is a movie that I could have seen at Toronto Film Festival, but didn't because I knew it was coming on Netflix. Although I did get to see Colin Farrell do his little jog down the street because he was caught in traffic and late for a Q&A. So his team was running with him. So he's in good shape. I just wrote that the direction of Ballad of a Small Player carried it. Good production design. There's some very obvious digital cropping and compositing in it, which kind of took away from it. The script is not good. Rowan Joffe wrote it, and he wrote 28 Weeks Later, which is an enjoyable movie, but the dramatic stakes and stuff, like actually telling a story outside of genre norms, does not seem to be this guy's suit. And it was boring, but because what was going on, the visual style of it was so flashy and colorful, and Colin Farrell is so good in it, that's able to carry it for me. And that's what a good director does. Like, this is the director of All Quiet on the Western Front. Crucially, it says in the trailer from Academy Award winner Edward Berger, or Berger, director of Conclave and All Quiet on the Western Front. All Quiet on the Western Front did win 4 Academy Awards for Netflix, but if you go to Edward Berger himself, he technically should not be credited unless he's credited in a thing, that because he was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay for All Quiet, didn't win. And the All Quiet on the Western Front won Best International Film for Germany. That does not go to the filmmaker. Although the filmmaker gets to accept the award, it gets presented to the country. So yeah, it seems a bit odd to me, but anyways, it's kind of funny how that genre is developing, because or that category is developing, because you basically have Germany buying an Iranian film, this buying that, people just distributing movies that kind of should go to other countries, but they're good movies nonetheless. So it's like, who cares which country ultimately distributes it or where it's filmed? One of my most favorite movies of the year, it was just an accident, was filmed in Iran in secret, and it's a co-production between Iran, France, and Luxembourg. So it's like essentially a French film, which is just kind of funny. Yeah. So international internationality is part of the game. Doesn't matter where you come from. What matters is the result, at least when it comes to filmmaking, or the journey. But there are very many films. If you watch a okay movie and then you get to the end sucks, then it's just like, oh. So I appreciate movies that are more of a consistent vibe. Because if I'm enjoying a movie and then the ending really sucks, then it's tough to swallow. I won't lie to you. In terms of video games, I'm not sure if I have much to report on here. I'm glad I caught up and didn't have a massive letterbox diary for you guys. Just that I'm waiting on Sonic and Sega Cross Worlds, and I did try and get past the Oda boss battle, and did successfully set up my streaming for that. The thing is, I had a big hissy fit last night because I was trying to record this, but I guess because of something that I did, there's like an echo anytime that I review on there, so that sucks. So I won't be doing that anytime soon. Recording on my background with DVDs and stuff. I'm kind of set up in here, which I'm gonna have to move because the family's coming home this weekend. So just always moving around, just right as I get comfortable. But nonetheless, I did at least touch the controller again. So maybe I can finish it before this week. But yeah, next week things are going to be big. But let's finally get into the moment you guys have all been waiting for, the review. Not a review, actually. I don't know why I said that. Default mode, sorry about that. It's almost like a junket. I was reached out to by, I believe it was Garnier Films. I'll correct myself if I'm wrong. But about this movie. And they noticed my podcast. My podcast is getting very popular. And what's great about that is that I was able to get a little, I don't know, what was something. Yeah, Garnier Films, I'm correct. Daniel Garnier reached out to me and wanted to introduce me to this director, Kyle Weingart, who made this movie Cuisine de l'Apocalypse. It's a campy post-apocalyptic comedy set in Montana, streaming in October, right on time for Halloween. He combines zombies, robots, 90s style laughs with a nod to comedic legends like Mel Brooks and Monty Python. I get a lot of, like, yes, it is that, but Blazing Saddles weirdly came up because there's a little bit of an element of Western in it, but it's kind of this absurd town. So it's like the town aspect of it came up for me. And he shared with me a little of what it takes to make an original indie with a wild ensemble that included Kevin Sorbo, Natasha Leggero, Emilio Rivera, and fresh faces like Zuzu Weingart and Nilo Butler in the scenic Bitterroot Valley under his company 99 Productions, LLC. And so, yeah, it's a really fun project to watch, and I enjoyed watching it. It's like a feel-good movie. It reminds me a bit of the independent movie that I watched a while ago called Anna and the Apocalypse. It's of that tone. And yeah, I like talking to him about it. The main thing that I remember talking to him about was that, and I mean, I'll show you the clip afterwards, but about modern filmmaking. And to wrap it all back around at the beginning of the episode when I talked about, what the internet gets wrong about movies. This is something that filmmakers themselves get wrong that he didn't on his film, which is when you shoot nighttime scenes and you can actually see what's going on. So he talked to me about shooting in Montana and making a film there and working locally with the people. And that they made, get this, crucially, the night scenes easy to see. Because when you watch movies, everybody's in love with naturalistic lighting nowadays, which means you can't see anything. And it drives me nuts because it's like this kind of technocratic misstep that people get wrong. But Kyle Weingart on Cuisine de l'Apocalypse did not. So without further ado, enjoy. that interview.
What are we going to do? We have like our big kind of source light is gone, which was playing as a moon.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, what can we do with our, you know, what can we do with our smaller lights to kind of fill the space? And
Hmm.
so there's a spot where like the zombies, when the zombies are on the ground, he's like, well, this is a swamp, right? Can we have light coming up from the swamp, like green light?
Hmm.
And I was like, yes, because we need the light, and so it ended up working out pretty good, but none of it was like you're saying, we wanted to see things. We didn't want to use natural light. Um, and it was also very dark, no moon,
Hmm.
and cold. All those scenes were uh, every time we shot a scene, we kind of would be like, all right, this is the scene from this,
Yeah.
and so that whole haunted forest sequence was Scooby Doo, so
Yeah,
we were
I
like,
got that vibe
did you?
like
Cool.
good.
Okay.
And I just kind of liked how it ended up with Sorbo there when he's like sort of kidnapped by the zombies. And I kind of wondered because of the nighttime and daytime sequences, and it's interesting how you begin in the night, is like, oh, what made you settle on zombies versus like vampires or ghosts or something? Um,
It
was it
would
just
be honestly, it's that Scooby Doo influence. One of my
mhm.
favorite movies of all time is Scooby Doo on Zombie Island, and yeah,
Really? Okay, good
I
good skit.
love that movie. I grew up on it, and my son loves it too.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean that whole sequence where the zombie grabs Sorbo's leg and then he rips off the hand, and they kind of go like that. That's a direct rip off of Scooby Doo on Zombie Island.
Yeah. It fits the tone so well though. Like
Mhm.
the skip I you do a really good job of tone management in this movie.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to mention the actor what's his name? John
Kevin
who
Jack.
yeah, Kevin Jack. He reminded me so much of like he probably gets this all the time, but like Steve Carell.
He
Uh
does. I knew you were going to say that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, do I say it or not? But it's just kind of like that comedy protagonist kind of thing, like where he's being very goofy, but also very sincere.
Hmm.
Yeah. Is that why you cast him or what you saw in him?
Definitely. Now, when we first did he's been with us since the beginning. So the very first proof of concept, that character was written to be very serious. Like I
Hmm.
wanted to, which I still think would have been good. I like this better, but
Hmm.
he was originally written as a very serious guy who had this one weird quirk where he wanted to do this cooking show, and then the actor who was going to come down couldn't make it, and my wife was working with Kevin Jack at a steakhouse, and she's like, let's go have dinner at work, and she's like, I want you to meet Kevin. And then I met him and immediately was like, this guy is so, I just love him
Hmm.
immediately. And I'm like, I know the audience will feel that too.
Hmm.
And so we brought him in, and he just kind of, yeah, brought that kind of Michael Scott for or like the
Yeah.
Gilligan, where
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah. That too. Like again, when you said Gilligan's Island, I'm like, oh, he's Gilligan. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
100%. Where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and that was something that, as we were filming it, not everybody understood, and
Mm-hmm.
there was a little
It's an
pushback
old
from.
show. I mean, I
Yeah, it
haven't
is.
seen it, but it's like so embedded in culture that I know about it, you know.
Yeah,
Again, a skipper to Professor and Mary Ann here on Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
and it's just like this guy who messes everything up, and but is so sincere in how he feels, and
Hmm.
that's where like the Michael Scott thing goes,
Hmm.
where it's like, yeah, he just he messes everything up. He's kind of disrespectful, but doesn't mean to be.
Hmm.
And but he does have a heart of gold, and he would have your back, no matter what.
Hmm.
I don't know how helpful that would be, for him to have your back.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
and then I also just wanted him to kind of stumble his way into saving his town,
Hmm.
which I feel like Michael Scott would try to do, or Gilligan,
Hmm. The other thing was that did you have a chef on set to like make the food, like a food
We
artist?
did.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It looks good.
So, no, it tasted good too.
Hmm.
So we had Abe. he's a chef out of Missoula, and he was just so fantastic. And we would um, like the zombie dance fight when he made that chicken and he made these potatoes that I put into my recipe book. I use them now, and but it was like I think we wrapped at like 3 or 4 in the morning, and he had made all this stuff, potatoes and broccolini and this barbecue chicken, and then as soon as we wrapped, we just all like before we took anything down, all the crew. I mean, it's late in the night, but everybody's like, "Oh, I got to try that," and so we all got in there and ate it. But all the
Yeah.
food was legit, really good. And yeah, he even
So
did
did
some of the.
everybody like get to try it essentially, like almost like craft services, but not quite, Yeah.
Yeah,
It's kind of like, oh, let me get a piece of that if I get close to it.
oh yeah, we totally cut it all up, and I mean, so there was the scene where they have dinner with Sweet Melissa at the Studio 99, and
Mhm.
they that he made a full prime rib roast,
Mm.
and so that we all
You're
had a
making me
little bit of.
hungry.
I know. And then he ended up using that for the breakfast burritos the next day.
Mhm.
It was independent film. You got to stretch that budget,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
um,
Hmm.
yeah, it was all so good. I can't. And it was nice to know like all the recipes that I pitched,
Hmm.
to him. He went for, except the very last dish that he cooks for all the Andes, and was a paella. And I had originally written it as a carbonara, and I don't know why I chose carbonara. I like carbonara, I guess, and
Sure.
I like bacon. And but I told Abe, I was like, well, if there's any dishes in the script that you think might need work, like that you think would present better on screen, let me know.
Hmm.
And he said, well, the prettiest dish I do is a paella. And he's like, I think if this is the final dish that we see, I want to make my paella. And then, so I was like, okay. And then we get on set to shoot the thing. And then my producer, Joe Borden, comes up and he's like, dude, he can't say bon appetit. And I'm like, oh, why? And he's like, because in Spanish cooking, you would say buen provecho. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And so then we swapped it to buen provecho, or
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, at the very last minute. But that
How'd
was,
you
yeah.
how'd you get Natasha Leggero?
Uh,
Um,
so that was through, I don't know all the details, to be
yeah,
honest with
sure. Yeah,
you. We
yeah.
got
Like
her.
directors, creative producers, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, we had we were 2 weeks into production when we got her. We had originally I wanted as many names as we could possibly get,
Yep.
obviously. And
Hmm.
then we had cast an actress, Kira. She's from Missoula, and she's fantastic. She would
Hmm.
have just dominated that role. Her auditions were so good. But she's a professional, and I just kind of let her know. I was like, hey, so you're the choice, you're the local
Hmm.
choice, but we are reaching out to bigger names to try to sell this movie. And she was like, I understand.
Hmm.
But let her know you have every bit of talent it takes to play this part.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then 2 weeks into the production, we had 1 week until we were filming the Sweet Melissa stuff.
Hmm.
And Joe Borden, the Buen Provencio producer, was he was a writer for gosh, I don't know how this works if I can say these things.
Oh, okay.
For a bit, I don't really know. I probably
But
can.
what I'm interested in is that like so you strategically like we don't know if we're gonna get this person. Let's keep it till late in the production. That's like just a smart thing that I
Mhm.
myself wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, and then we
Because
were
she's in
like,
quite a bit of it.
she is. So
Yeah,
that she when we only filmed with her for 2 days.
yeah,
So that was another kind of idea that I don't know. I was like, well, for budget purposes, let's put her on a robot screen.
yeah.
So that way we only need her for 2 days.
Hmm.
And but then we paid a lot for the VFX, so it might have evened out.
Yeah.
But I but I
Yeah.
liked her being on the screen and being a
Hmm.
big robot. I don't know.
The
Silly.
this was like a weird costume note that I had, but like it's weird. The props of the dad's eye patch was like a
Mhm.
unique thickness. And like, what was the thought that went into like? I know it's a weird thing because it's like an eye patch thing, and then also using his shovel as like a weapon of choice because it's kind of like almost iconic, you know?
Yeah. So the eye patch actually came from, so the actor who plays that is named Douglas Hall,
Hmm.
and he's a really good friend of ours, and he came out for one of the proof of concepts we made, because we made two of them, and
Hmm.
he in his audition he had an eye patch, and I was just like, ooh, I like that because it just tells the story.
Yeah.
What's the story? I don't know, and so we just kind of leaned into it. And then when we did our first proof of concept, he had this kind of little shovel that he would carry around, and I kind of thought about Home Alone, and how there's the neighbor guy, I forget his name, but he
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
takes out the bad guys at the end with a shovel,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
I just he's a man of practicality. So and when I was working with the production designer, the production designer wanted to go a little bit more like, oh, I'm going to create this really big zombie weapon, and I didn't know how to tell him I didn't want that. I was
Hmm.
like, I just want it to be a snow shovel,
Hmm.
but I want to hear your ideas. And I was like, well, let's talk to Doug and see how he feels about it. And Doug was just like, I don't want all that. I just want a snow shovel.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, then we're
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
it.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then we kind of incorporated, because he had the eye patch, and then there was a scar that kind of went through it too. And
Hmm.
that's kind of where the whole idea, when they go to Lava Land and meet the Marauders,
Hmm.
that there there was some history with the Marauders that he had. So
Yeah.
just kind of an idea to make this world as big as possible with the
Yeah. It really pays off the character. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And there there are a lot of sets in this like a lot of locations like obviously some of it was filmed, on location, sort of like the desert and I guess
Mhm.
quite a bit in studio.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so the desert was just in a gravel pit, like, because we're in
Hmm.
Montana, so there was no desert here. Well, if you go to eastern Montana, you can find some stuff that you might
Hmm.
classify, but um, we just kind of played with camera angles, and like, okay, we can see only this, we can see only this. And I remember my editor came out and visited. I was like, oh, there's Lava Land. He's like, what? And I'm
Hmm.
like, yeah, it's right there. He's like, it's not a actual desert. I assumed you guys filmed this in this desert. And I'm like, no, this is we get one angle here, and then,
Hmm.
just kind of jumped around and found a couple other spots that have been dug up around here. And
Hmm.
then yeah, we actually, as far as the sets go, we did build that whole town, but
Hmm.
the first day
Wow.
of
That must have taken
production,
a while.
yeah, no, our production designer Richard Davenport and Jesse Kwasny was our art director. They were out there for a whole month before we shot, filming the whole or building the whole thing, and they had um, a lot of people come and help. I had friends from high school who they're like, "I'll come out and do a day." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Please," and
Nice.
it was just a good time,
Yeah.
actually. At least I can say that. They might tell you different.
Yeah, well, it's
But
always nice. Like I've called friends before, and it's like, "What? Really? You're offering work? Okay, I'm
yeah,
not doing anything." You know?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And then other people are just like, it's like sometimes you call up your parents or somebody. I've
Mm.
worked on film sets where they did that, and they're like, I'll do it for free." It's
Oh
like,
yeah, no, exactly.
yeah,
My parents were bringing us food,
yeah.
so my mom would make dinner and
Hmm.
bring it down, and yeah, almost every night I feel like. And then yeah, my brother Jeremy, who is starting to do film more and more, he was coming down and putting hours in, and but we always grew up building forts and all that kind of stuff, so it just kind of felt normal, felt natural.
In a world ravaged by every apocalypse imaginable, one small town starts to rebuild. And one man rises up to follow his dreams.
I present to you Paella de Marisco. Buen provecho. It's the end of the world and I still can't get anyone to come see the show.
Food matters, Gray.
Staying alive.
matters. And we're not gonna do that with your fancy little mini burritos.
It's called a taquito.
We got something exciting, something revolutionary.
You uploaded your show to the internet? What if someone sees it?
Someone already has. It's at a film studio in California.
Our secret town isn't secret anymore? We're screwed.
I'm gonna corrupt that download from the computer in Hollywood, so they won't know where we are.
Get ready for a quest of epic portions.
How are you all alive out here?
Bunch of bitch-ass robots.
When was the last time you came across something that wasn't trying to kill you?
You told me there's zombies here? I never heard that before. Freaking course.
Led by Chef John and the Hero Squad.
I know this is called the Haunted Forest, but this is so haunted.
What were you expecting?
I don't know. Like vaguely spooky.
As they fight to protect what matters most.
I miss my babies.
Everything's gonna be okay. My red and white pants saws.
What did I ever do to deserve such a friendship?
You pulled my camper out of the river single-handedly when Yellowstone blew.
All of you are so special. Don't forget important. That makes you beautiful.
Well, we got a feisty one. I like that.
Marauders!
Let's earn that Taco Tuesday.
Cuisine de l'Apocalypse.
We surrender! We surrender! Oh my God, we surrender!
Coming soon.
What's the morel mushroom situation in this area?